On May 23, 1993, wax, or the discovery of television among the bees, entered the internet, projected by a cable into a wall. Inside that internet, there are no movies there. And so wax, waiting until the last frame enters the wall, then begins the first movie on the internet, to continue forever, for that is how the first movie on the internet begins, at the first frame after the last frame. A true story, and this is that movie, and in reverse. And so, we begin.
As you are aware, the internet is a DVD on a coffee cup. I could show you how that happens, how the handle of the coffee cup becomes the hole in the center of the DVD. How the interior of the coffee cup disappears into the surface of a flat disc as I spin. I am the first movie on the internet. I am inside a DVD on a coffee cup. I could show you how that happens. How the movie appears between two frames, between the front and the back of the DVD disc. I am the first frame after the last frame. I am the movie in the DVD on the coffee cup. I am wax, or the discovery of television among the bees. I am 999 years, 364 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 48 seconds long. And then it was dark, until dawn.
They said, "Little bomb, it is July 16th, 1945. Now that you're gone, they'll make you a marker, and the bees will come to live here, and the flying saucers," they said. "Little bomb, it is July 16th, 1945. Now that you're gone, they'll make you a marker, and the bees will come to live here, and the flying saucers," they said. "Little bomb, it is July 16th, 1945. Now that you're gone, they'll make you a marker, and the bees will come to live here, and the flying saucers," they said. "Little bomb, It is July 16th, 1945. Now that you're gone, they'll make you a marker, and the bees will come to live here, and the flying saucers.
The twisting dance of the visiting TV motivates the Trinity sign to roll up, leaving the blank floor dark. It prepares for liftoff. Only one passenger on board. We enter the marker and read famous names and dates. And up top, we can Jacob climbing towards the control room, though his motivation is mysterious. Is he a hijacker? Or just trying to escape? Space twists and rolls itself, hoping to exit through some empty point somewhere, the dark point where the world axle turns. As a result, all space and time too begins to take on a hyperbolic aspect, with things near seeming too near now. Now is too much now, and far away things much too far away. Can't remember yesterday? There's a reason.
So you will know that through the grace of God, the maker of people, his Son, the Savior of the Christians, and those bees who swarm through the air, that though you are dead, you were born. Zoltan Abbasid, on July 11th, 1882. So you will know that through the grace of God, the maker of people, his Son, the Savior of the Christians, and those bees who swarm through the air, that though you are dead, you were born. Zoltan Abbasid, on July 11th, 1882. So you will know that through the grace of God, the maker of people, his Son, the Savior of the Christians, and those bees who swarm through the air, that though you are dead, you were born. Zoltan Abbasid, on July 11th, 1882. So you will know that through the grace of God, the maker of people, His Son, the Savior of the Christians, and those bees who swarm through the air, that though you are dead, you were born. Zoltan Abbasid, on July 11th, 1882.
Into the end of the tube, and as we enter the dark, a long distorted tube eye sweeps up to greet us. Blink, blink. Welcome to the Darkness National Park. I'm your guide here. You probably don't understand what I'm saying yet. You nod in agreement, hoping this shows that you don't understand. Then the ship starts to really rattle, and you can't hear the eye guide anymore. You're really traveling now. The sun wakes, split in half by a false horizon. When the split the atom, other things broke as well. The land of the dead, in double negative. The moon with its black sky. Out there, somewhere, is a golf ball, left by the astronauts. Those busybody bees, busy under the moon, making houses, making food, storing pieces of space stolen from the people of other planets. Cultures are the flowers that they eat. The bee child, Zoltan Abbasid, or Zamenhof, as we secretly know him. Zamenhof, the inventor, or is that the discoverer of Esperanto, that language we would have spoken if the First World War hadn't happened, i.e. space travel arrived in 1900. And by this time last year we were drinking Martian wines, and no longer talking in tongues to one another, except near Easter or another holiday appropriate to the local harvest culture. Through a series of dissolves, we travel backwards through the history of Abbasid's face in 3 steps, from age to youth. A student without glasses spirals back through a recursive infinity, hoping to find the anti-exit.
This was true. This was true. This was true. This was true.
Soft-sided oscillator body, which seems to be the poem shape of Mr. Abbasid, traveling through time, spreading good feeling through the medium of purely visual rhyme, bright soft oscillations in the pentameter style. Light shapes, perhaps ancient laundry lists, or the shadows of dead fiction characters. A soft oscillating page, exactly how these is not at present fully you.
My youth, I studied VolumeE, rival of Esperanto, the artificial language of international peace, and reconstructed the language of Cain spoken at the Tower of Babel. I studied VolumeE, rival of Esperanto, the artificial language of international peace, and reconstructed the language of Cain spoken at the Tower of Babel. I studied VolumeE, rival of Esperanto, the artificial language of international peace, and reconstructed the language of Cain spoken at the Tower of Babel. I studied VolumeE, rival of Esperanto, the artificial language of international peace, and reconstructed the language of Cain spoken at the Tower of Babel.
A full page of La Espero, sick, a poem all Esperantists have read at least once, and sung several times. The title page of the standard work on Volapük, a language discovered by a German monk within a ball of light that appeared inside his cell halfway to the end of the last century. Contrast this with its rival Esperanto, that rational language designed by a South Russian Jew before the pogroms, a true fruit of secular Judaism, and perhaps, for a time, counter-trend to Zionism. Not all pre-revolution Russian Jews wanted an Israel. Many just wanted a world which would let them live in peace. The two languages were rivals, with button wars erupting at the end of the century. Supporters of each were known for wearing label buttons supporting their own cause. Language of the world. And since the Chinese seem to be taking quite well to the Bible, there probably wouldn't be a problem getting rid of those strange letter markings of theirs in a generation or two. A language made for internal communication, i.e. some sort of happy telepathy. That way the talker could use pictures, or just feelings. Of course, it would be necessary to find a grammar of feeling, said certain government officials. Proto-words of a half-scientific language. Sticks in a half-circle. Secret sign for a hidden rocket pad, where there is a radio you can use to talk to others like yourself. Box within a box, worlds within worlds, hives within hives, sides of the elevator shaft passing by you, pling pling, visible through the glass floor, as you drop deeper and deeper. Two circles around a point to end the sequence. The cushion embedded in the wall at the end of a railway line. Every day, locomotives hit that point and bounce back, violently heading towards the stations they came from. Ink reproduction of a Sumerian tablet. Sumer had printing presses, but the paper all rotted during the flood, and we're left thinking that the negative blocks were what they circulated. Pan across a stone steel, encoding music box notes which once played in Jacob's ear. He's trying to make them make noise again.
In 1915, Zoltan Abbasid, traveled to Basra in southern Mesopotamia in search of remnants from the Tower of Babel. In 1915, I, Zoltan Abbasid, traveled to Basra in southern Mesopotamia in search of remnants from the Tower of Babel. In 1915, I, Zoltan Abbasid, traveled to Basra in southern Mesopotamia in search of remnants from the Tower of Babel. In 1915, I, Zoltan Abbasid, traveled to Basra in southern Mesopotamia in search of remnants from the Tower of Babel.
An aerial view of Babel Tower, which might perhaps remind someone with bad eyes of the cover of a Hollow Earth map they saw for sale somewhere near here. A three-stack ship on the unmoving ocean. Zoltan Abbasid is the only passenger, though he doesn't quite notice that fact, busy as he is with his own thoughts. A map showing many migration routes, e.g. how to get to Europe from the South Pacific continent Mu, which may be how the Jews and Basques got to Spain. Atlantis can be seen mid-Atlantic. A map showing the irrigation canals in the vicinity of Alexandria, as printed in the Bee Kingdom League magazine in the early 30s. This is superimposed over an announcement for the first department store demonstration of John Logie Baird's new mechanical TV, which includes a description of the instantaneous transmission of pictures. The walls of Basra sometime before the First World War. At that time there was a museum in the center of the city, which has what were claimed to be Adam's first pants. The echoes of the region's ancient economy. Animals leave the gates with their owners, or vice versa. Owners leave the gates with their animals, or people leave the gates with their owners.
The British campaign in Mesopotamia had recently climaxed with the surrender to the Turks at Kut. The British campaign in Mesopotamia had recently climaxed with the surrender to the Turks at Kut. The British campaign in Mesopotamia had recently climaxed with the surrender to the Turks at Kut. The British campaign in Mesopotamia had recently climaxed with the surrender to the Turks at Kut.
Picture of the leader of the ill-fated British adventure in Mesopotamia, which was an attempt to attack the Turks from the rear, in order to disorganize their empire and isolate them on Asia Minor. Identical hats, part of a well-planned expedition that ended with many dead or in the chains of the barbarous Turks. Tough going in the mud. Noon thought that it would rain every day in the desert, or so the unofficial 17th Crusade, in which the Suez Canal was used to attack the Turks from the south, ended like so many others, with Brits in chains. Headlines from back home. Compact description of a terror. Animation from a U.S. Army Signal Corps film analyzing the catastrophe, showing the arrangement of the defenses. At center, you can see a hive, supernaturally superimposed on the battle plan, the visible mark of the invisible bees under the ground here.
I traveled by aeroplane and boat against the retreat to arrive at the famous tomb of Ezra, gatekeeper at the Garden of Eden. I traveled by aeroplane and boat against the retreat to arrive at the famous tomb of Ezra, gatekeeper at the Garden of Eden. I traveled by aeroplane and boat against the retreat to arrive at the famous tomb of Ezra, gatekeeper at the Garden of Eden. I traveled by aeroplane and boat against the retreat to arrive at the famous tomb of Ezra, gatekeeper at the Garden of Eden.
A potato bug plane flying on an updraft over the great conjunction of the Tigris and Euphrates. Heading north or south, Zoltan Abbasid grim in the single passenger seat, remembering his first car crash. Boats still take you to the exit of Eden, perhaps just a dark spot hanging in the middle of the air, or a crack in the side of a tree, or a particular color of wind. Round and the boats go, middle of the river, looking for the place he wants to be taken to, shuttling from shore to shore. Everyone knows the place, has been there themselves, but only by accident, and noon seems to be sure where it is today. Apparently it moves around. A faint smell in the air. The light changes, seems to take on a sharper, banded linearity. Abbasid, as if he could tell which he was going just by checking his path against these lines of light. Polarized light guides him the last few miles. A fort on a hill, which may be the tomb of Ezra. Empty now, except for one spider in the far corner back room. And even that insect will be gone soon, stung dead by an avenging bee. Finally, Abbasid is walking the final mile to Eden. Pots, broken or not, noon is allowed to dig here. Must be the wind, moved the soil away. Abbasid has seen similar things near Karnak, and shudders. The doctors of the pharaohs put the internal organs of the mummies in honey-packed jars, in preparation for an endless night, partially cloudy. Abbasid remembers 4 tall honey pots neatly laid on a shelf back at the Medical School Museum in Alexandria. Though clay, each gave a pure note when struck. But they had a sinister purpose, though he remembers the pots, that purpose escapes his memory this moment. Now the choice has narrowed between two pots. One has a clear honey which comes from the flowers of Eden. Eat it, and hear the voices of the animals before they were given names. Choose the other pot, and you'll just be sent home, told to come back tomorrow. But, next day, if you do have the nerve to return, noon will be there, the pots will be gone, and all you'll see are wagon wheel marks in the mud, heading in every direction.
I knew that here were hidden the remnants of Babel. I knew that here were hidden the remnants of Babel. I knew that here were hidden the remnants of Babel. I knew that here were hidden the remnants of Babel.
An instructional wheel image. Cross-mapping the useful edge of the wheel. Just a flat little line, it looks like, versus the round view from the sidewalk, where you can see the axle turn and turn without seeming to get anywhere. The two framed in an ornamental frame that hints at cycloids. All some sort of allegory provided as puzzle or entertainment by the degenerate current gatekeepers at the Eden Gate. Flat and thin wheels. Part of a German boy's pre-war picture story about exciting adventure travel in higher dimensions, accidentally sent to an English soldier at the cut front, wrong address. He tosses it on the ground, disgusted. In the fourth dimension, you can see two aspects of any object at once. Well, that is one way of putting it. You'll have to read the book. If I can just find the other pages. That's why we can see the wheels just like this. Half a wheel, and its other half. Yet another travel allegory, this one printed on the back of the entrance ticket to Eden. In just a moment the ticket taker, some Sumerian beekeeper who lost his teeth to a steady diet of sweet dates, will tear it in half, and the puzzle will be lost, along with any chance for an answer. Faint marks in an eroded clay tablet. Honey braille, wearing down under the constant touch of visitors trying to get oriented here under the Welcome to Eden arch. If you get in line, you'll get your chance to read it, and then you'll discover it just rehashes the copper text that the Army stapled to the outside of the Trinity Site monument. Date, year, reason for the marker, and perhaps middle name of the current president. A rock-carved archer near drowning water, trying to shoot a honeybee out of the sky. Always missing when he gets home. However, he lies to his wife and children. I killed 27 of them today. Prisoners who demonstrate their conquered state in order to preserve life. The magnificent conquering bees will generously give each of these new slaves his or her own planet. What kind of war is this? And what do the bees get out of it?
I found native bees in British hives. I found native bees in British hives. Found native bees in British hives. I found native bees in British hives.
Domesticated bees on the top of a British hive, which is the central axis of the spinning Eden dynamo. The Eden bees bought this out of a mail-order catalog. It took their local employees some time to correctly assemble it after it arrived. Since steps, not hives, are ordinarily used in this part of the inner earth. Brave Zoltan, or someone hired as temporary proxy, had pulled the top off the hive, and points at something significant, a crime, happening right there, top of the combs. Terrible noises in the air, something over the horizon, or just under the ground here, waking up, and the radio doesn't seem to be working. Bare hands pull out a nervous frame. Someone stands by with a smoker, in case things get out of control. Loud coughing from the crowd assembled nearby. Zoltan wishes he was wearing a bomb squad suit.
Bees that danced backwards. Bees that danced backwards. Bees that danced backwards. Bees that danced backwards.
The bee that dances backwards. This doesn't tell the other bees how to get to food, a flower, or a tray of sugar syrup. It tells them how to forget. You've found a flower. How do you step backwards to the moment when you left the hive, hoping to find that flower, but unaware of its actual location? How do you will yourself back to ignorant anticipation?
I dissected the queen. I dissected the queen. I dissected the queen. I dissected the queen.
Holding the queen bee with a very prehensile grip. Fortunately, telepathic control allows the queen to control these giant apes. Still, you do have to be careful what you tell them to do. They are just monkeys, she tells the other bees, who crowd close to hear the words of wisdom. Secret Agent Jacob flutters like the flag, watching, waiting. Loss of concentration has caused his Zoltan Abbasid mask to fade a bit. That's dangerous. Hope Noon from the hive notices this. Bee microscopy, showing a bee's knee in the cracking joint. Dangerous bee mites can gather. Dr. Abbasid checks the health of this hive, bee by bee, which is the proper thing to do before deciding whether or not to bring them back to England. Wouldn't want these bees giving some parasitic amoeba or tiny mite to the home country hives. Of course, he'll end up making his decision without carrying his check through completely, and there will consequences, which will mainly impact him and his families. Tongue of a bee. No talk here. That is all done silently, through waggle dance and wing pointing, shadows, and occasionally by telepathic lights, tiny flash bulbs in the corners of your brain pan.
She was blind. She was blind. She was blind. She was blind.
The hexagonal surface of the bee's eye. Just as there are glowing fireflies, there are also TV bees who give off low-resolution, coherent images one after the other, precisely controlling the changing glow of every cell on the front of their extromissive eyes, their glowing TV eyes. Squaring the circle of the bee eye, watching and waiting for the blink. Bees don't have eyelids, but if you were lucky enough to have an animal bug telepathic link-up with one of the bees temporarily standing on your bee-suit glove, and in the moment of understanding looked into the eye of its mind, you would see that the mental eye of the bee, through which it sees and understands all those parts of nature that are important to it and to others like it. This eye can blink, and blink fast, up to 15 times a second.
My guess was that these bees had come from inside the earth. My guess was that these bees had come from inside the earth. My guess was that these bees had come from inside the earth. My guess was that these bees had come from inside the earth.
Ancient comb from a modern hives. Queen cells suspended off the bottom of the comb. Summer palace of the Infanta and her quadruple sisters, from which they control the powers behind the throne. Jacob, in distorted view, looks up, as he often does. Sky still there? Check. Moon still there? Check. Me still here? Check. Let's move on, he says to himself.
When I had this thought, I saw pictures. I saw a man I had never met. When I had this thought, I saw pictures. I saw a man I had never met. When I had this thought, I saw pictures. I saw a man I had never met. When I had this thought, I saw pictures. I saw a man I had never met.
The laughing skull, emblem of the victim to be. There's always one of these, grimly and dimly imaged by the proto-killer lurking in the hereafter's of everyone you know. A picture in an instructional story that plays over and over again, teaching it how to do what it will do if it ever gets the chance to do it. You're after the excavations. The famous statue of the scribe has just been uncovered, still pondering its ancient alphabet. Or maybe just recent insults and revenges. Turning with robotic stiffness, that many years under the occasionally muddy dust, and your bones stick to each other. When your teeth clatter, you feel it too well down in your feet, and when you try to write on a rough paper, your backbone feels every little wood pole bridge to face the enemy who has excavated, and so accidentally activated, this evil writing scribe, buried here for bad words so long ago. Family member of Jacob's, though certainly blind, staring with an intensity which indicates he can hear exactly where you are, where you will try to flee to, what you will say when he finally reaches out and catches you. Blind man from too long ago, surrounded by frozen patterns of his own brain whirls, knotted and unable to articulate themselves, aching to find another brain to work in. Four-dimensional stone face in a triple mirror, starting out at the live, good-smelling blood that has come from far away on its own 2 feet. Unlike Ozymandias, this king is concerned with his grooming. No broken nose. No wind sand marks on the still smooth stone skin. Maybe the paint is gone from his eyes, but the better to see you with. He has had a successful career in the afterlife.
He told me that these bees had come to Basra through a cave that led to the center of the earth, where there was a planet that someday I would visit. He told me that these bees had come to Basra through a cave that led to the center of the earth, where there was a planet that someday I would visit. He told me that these bees had come to Basra through a cave that led to the center of the earth, where there was a planet that someday I would visit. He told me that these bees had come to Basra through a cave that led to the center of the earth, where there was a planet that someday I would visit.
James Hivemaker, another ancient with a split face, watches you on his portable TV, carried for him by his bee protégés. He is curious how you react to these goings-on. He is watching for a sigh, a tear, other sign of weakness, and will use this as a clue to how he should behave, hoping that this will bring the two of you closer together, and give him some advantage over you in the final struggle now scheduled between you. In the far distance, this Tuesday, here in the land of the future dead, where time runs backwards, but everyone runs backwards too, so through double negative they seem to be running forwards. A volcano is erupting, emptying the towns under it, whose inhabitants rush by down this country road. Running through the outer villages, near the highway, their panic gives way to more serious business, for these people are vampire eaters, and one among them has discovered that there are few monsters of this sort camped in the exterior villages, which they haven't visited since the last eruption. This leads to a lot of excitement, as they try to chase down some undead victims for lunch. A simian crowd turns the corner on a country lane. Vampire eaters all. They clutch glowing crosses and sharpened pens and pencils, running after a red-mouthed monster who has abandoned his fear of daylight for a headlong rush out of his coffin and down the road to attempted safety somewhere. Bees in slow motion on the air. Early bee cinematography. At a certain age, Hivemaker gave up his expedition life, stopped working for the Supernormal Pictures Society, and just stayed at home, photographing his bees. The Garden of Eden cave sign, rotating, keeps trying to finish some sentence, but Noon is really listening just this moment. Round and round it turns in the background, stuttering out some sort of warning, hour after hour. The skin around the center of the earth. Inside, the brain is cooking in its own heat, trying to send out telepathic thoughts to the sun, or any near star. Inside the earth again, we see a sun, a void, and maybe planets. Inside those planets are other places, which it is also possible to travel to, if only you'll allow yourself to be shrunk appropriately, which will grotesquely distort the proportions of your features, and lead to some terrible nights in roadside hotels, unable to sleep, afraid of the future. You're going to have to keep traveling, keep shrinking, no way back, a lonely circus life for you. A V-2 rocket at White Sands, spinning through other dimensions on its way through the past. Note the usefulness of fin markings, which are meant to make you dizzy. Then the model rocketeer standing next to you will begin the hypnotic process, which will end with your signing certain documents you didn't even know existed.
The Tower of Babel was there, and the bees lived inside it. The Tower of Babel was there, and the bees lived inside it. The Tower of Babel was there, and the bees lived inside it. The Tower of Babel was there, and the bees lived inside it.
An pictorial extrapolation of how many planets could comfortably fill space around a sun, if the rules of Newton's physics could be harnessed by engineers at the planetary scale for human good, i.e. to build a more habitable solar system, clogged with planets here to there, like so many asteroids. A fast-moving cloud of haze, in this case generated benevolently by the weather-changing Fat Boy bomb, blowing atomic flame and invisible particles in just about every direction. One of the three generally available views of this event. A traveling cone, or colorful surprise. We travel back down through the highly stretched words of the Trinity Marcus bronze frontispiece, inside Jacob's somewhat distorted eyeball, trying to find our way to the nerve, where we can pass on the photons we're carrying there, and then take a bit of a rest. A circular and dark zero, flawed by a fracture line at 12-00, sends out simple round pulses. Having already been introduced to the language of Cain, however, we know that this is the transmission of a body or soul, now in progress. The oscillator transmission slows down. Whoever was being sent by this beam, they must have arrived, stepping off the escalator whirl, onto the sales floor of the new millennium.
When the movie was over, I realized that the world was surrounded by darkness. When the movie was over, I realized that the world was surrounded by darkness. When the movie was over, I realized that the world was surrounded by darkness. When the movie was over, I realized that the world was surrounded by darkness.
Back at the Zoetrope, where poor Jacob is doomed to roll the barrel perhaps forever, pedal powering the pan of the enjoyable landscape past our night-sight eyes. The straighty hillsides also roll by, right above a giant zero of darkness. Down there, in the dark, the bees ride the underground highways, on their way to vacation homes on the shore of the inner earth void.
That's because there was a cave the size of Midtown Manhattan, hidden beneath the New Mexican desert. That's because there was a cave the size of Midtown Manhattan, hidden beneath the New Mexican desert. That's because there was a cave the size of Midtown Manhattan, hidden beneath the New Mexican desert. Because there was a cave the size of Midtown Manhattan, hidden beneath the New Mexican desert.
Cliffs spinning on a panorama ring, a flat strip which was given half a turn behind the scenes, to transform it into a Mobius landscape, endless, one-dimensional. A cut piece of moving diorama, appearing out of darkness, the world written inside a box, seen from the inside by a hyperbolic eye. Such eyes can't see straight lines, corners, or right angles, just endless, inescapable curves.
The bees were waiting for me there to show me how to get to that planet and meet my victim. The bees were waiting for me there to to show me how to get to that planet and meet my victim. The bees were waiting for me there to show me how to get to that planet and meet my victim. The bees were waiting for me there to show me how to get to that planet and meet my victim.
The basement at the bottom of the frame has gotten smaller, and Jacob's walk distorted feet larger. Determination and fortitude are obvious in each step, as he rolls the barrel of the world, hoping he can keep his balance, not fall off into the dark. The witnessing cliffs slide by, a papyrus so rough it was rejected by scholars, and sent down to the children, to scribble on as they wish.
So I followed the pictures inside my brain towards the dark place. So I followed the pictures inside my brain towards the dark place. So I followed the pictures inside my brain towards the dark place. So I followed the pictures inside my brain towards the dark place.
A hollow planet approaches us. It has a single shrub on it, and a relatively thick atmosphere. We're going to pass right through the center of this place, on our way to nowhere. Out of the dark at the center of that void, a tubular world rushes, overtaking us, then passes on. Lots of different types of planetary geometry available in the land of the bees. The black and white gyres of the signaling void descend into the blank cake batter, where they whirl and whirl, mixing the antidote, flesh for a new body meant to be slowly baked a cold interstellar oven, fired by the faint light. Heat from passing comets. Fast spiraling living pixels. The place where Jacob is now heading, as seen in extreme close-up on the partially reflective surface of a TVB's eyes. The bat exit at the Carlsbad Caverns at the end of dusk. The right side of the entrance is already leaving, scared of the night. Twin Jacobs split, their helmets separating as these two head out to join the UFOs, who offer them identical jobs with identical pay. The hexagon opens, as the sky opens to eat whatever happens to be under it at that nano-moment. Meanwhile, back at the beehive, the swarm mutters, asking when it can go free. Green mountain slopes where shepherd Jacob had wandered. He assiduously picks his way along the stony path. Lost his flock a few hours ago. Jacob, walking slowly through bad underbrush, hoping to arrive soon, but guessing that it will be too late.